All right, so are you ready to dive into the psychology of persuasion with me?
Hmm.
It's going to be a deep dive into how our minds can be swayed and, well, sometimes it gets a little unsettling.
Yeah, it seems like we're going to be doing some serious decoding here.
I think you're right, especially with this book.
Yeah, it goes way beyond those basic persuasion tricks you hear about all the time.
So what are we getting into here?
It taps into this field called dark psychology.
Dark psychology. Okay, hold on. Now you have my full attention.
Yeah.
It sounds a little ominous, like, should I be worried?
I wouldn't say worried.
Okay.
Think of it more like it's not about turning you into some master manipulator, you know?
Yeah.
This book is all about knowing what tactics people are using to get their way, especially people with certain personality traits.
Okay, so it's more defensive. Like, I know what you're doing.
Exactly. The book calls them the dark triad, and by knowing the tactics, you're not going to be caught off guard.
So you're saying that we're going to be uncovering secrets, dark triad. That sounds like we're about to meet some Bond villains. Who are these puppet masters?
Well, the book boils it down to three main personality types, and you've probably encountered a few in the wild.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You've got your narcissists, your machiavellians, and your psychopaths.
Okay, let's unpack these characters. Starting with the narcissist. So what's the book's take on those guys? I feel like we all know a few of them.
Yeah, well, it goes beyond a simple textbook definition, thankfully. It actually gives a whole scenario. It talked about how a narcissist can totally derail an entire team project because they're not even going to consider anyone else's ideas, just completely refuses.
Oh, man. I've been in those meetings before.
Yeah.
Like, if you're lucky, you get to watch.
Yeah.
It's their way or the highway, right?
Exactly.
Like, their ideas are oxygen and everyone else is just along for the ride.
And empathy, forget it. It doesn't exist in their world. It really is all about them.
Makes sense. Okay, so how about those Machiavellians? They sound like they'd be a handful.
Yeah, well, if the narcissists are all about themselves, the Machiavellians, all about the win.
It's all about the win, no matter what.
Whatever it takes, they're going to get it. They're like master strategists.
Oh, wow.
They can be charming, they can be persuasive, but it's only serving their goals. And empathy. It's just not there.
No empathy, got it.
Actually, the book even mentions that a lot of times there's a really strong link between Machiavellian traits and psychopathy.
Oh, okay. Which leads us to the third member of our little dark triad here, the psychopaths. Is it getting cold in here, or is it just me?
Yeah, I don't blame you for feeling a little creeped out. I mean, it makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
But you know what they say, knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
So of the three, psychopathy is where things can get a little dicey. They have, like, zero empathy. But they're also major risk takers, so you put those two things together, and the book really drives home that they struggle with empathy and that they've got this, like, crazy high tolerance for risky behavior.
So they're not all axe murderers, but maybe not who I'd want to play poker with.
Exactly. And that's the thing with all of this. It's about awareness. We're just recognizing these personality types and we're understanding what their potential tactics are.
So it's not just these extreme personalities, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, should I be side-eyeing my barista right now?
Probably not your barista, but the book does make it clear that these tactics, they're everywhere. We just don't always realize what we're seeing.
Wait.
Think about, like, a time that you felt pressure to buy something you didn't need.
Oh, yeah.
Or, like, a politician giving a speech where it's just, like, all emotion, no actual facts.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean.
You've seen it.
I've definitely been there.
Yeah.
It's like all the pieces are falling into place. So
Yeah.
how do we protect ourselves from these master manipulators? How do we not fall for it?
Well, the book gives some pretty practical advice, and it all starts with knowing yourself.
Okay.
Be aware of your own vulnerabilities, like what are those emotional buttons that someone might try to push to get you to do what they want?
So like a little bit of introspection goes a long way
Exactly.
to dodging these like manipulation landmines.
Yeah. And then next up, healthy skepticism.
Okay.
Question everything. Especially, you know, these days, there's just so much information coming at us all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that seems like it's playing on your emotions a little too much.
Don't believe everything you read on the internet, right?
Exactly. And that actually ties into the next point. Trust your gut.
Okay.
You know, that feeling that something's just not right.
Yeah.
That's your internal alarm system.
Yeah, like that old saying, like if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
You got it. And then finally, master the art of no.
Oh, no is a powerful word.
It is. Set boundaries for yourself. Take your time before you make a decision, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
It's okay to be a little bit selfish sometimes to protect yourself.
It's like we're getting a whole suit of armor here.
But it does sound kind of intense though, right? Like, are we really in a persuasion battle royale all the time? So it's not always bad, right? The book talks about, like, some of the positive ways these techniques can be used too.
Absolutely. I mean, remember, these are just tools, right?
Yeah.
Any tool can be used constructively. The
Mhm.
book even talks about neuro-linguistic programming. Have you ever heard of that?
NLP, yeah, I've heard of it, but honestly, I don't really know much about it. Yeah, NLP and even hypnosis, they have the potential for both good and bad.
Okay, so NLP and hypnosis. See, now we're talking. Those sound pretty intense, but also intriguing.
Mhm.
But before we get into those, the book doesn't like shy away from how these things can be misused, though.
No, not at all. It actually emphasizes that while these can be super powerful tools for like therapy and self-improvement, in the wrong hands, yeah, there can be some unintended consequences.
So it's really about like ethics and awareness,
Yeah,
using your powers for good.
exactly. It's not about manipulating people into doing what you want. It's about helping them, helping yourself, like overcoming a phobia or breaking a bad habit,
Good.
reaching your full potential.
So you're saying it's about empowerment, not exploitation.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Now I'm even more curious about these NLP and hypnosis things, though. So let's unpack these.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is NLP? Like, what are we even talking about when we say that?
So basically, NLP is all about communicating with the unconscious mind,
Okay.
bypassing those conscious filters that we all have.
Wait, hold on. You're saying there's a whole other layer of communication happening, like under the surface,
Exactly.
like our brains are having a whole secret conversation that we don't even know about.
Think of it like an iceberg.
Okay.
Your conscious mind, that's just the tip, right?
Right.
It's the part you see above the water.
Yeah.
But underneath,
Yeah.
that's the unconscious mind. And it's massive. It's driving so much of what you do, how you feel, what you think. NLP gives you the tools to kind of tap into that, you know, understand it, even reprogram those patterns.
Okay, that makes sense. So then where does hypnosis fit into all of this?
Yeah.
Isn't that like a parlor trick?
You know, it's funny you say that because hypnosis does have that, like, stage show reputation, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually a very real state of like deep relaxation
Okay.
and suggestibility. Basically, when you're hypnotized, you're kind of bypassing those critical faculties, those conscious barriers that normally filter information.
So it's, those suggestions just go straight to the source.
Exactly. And, you know, the subconscious mind, it's calling the shots. Like, it's responsible for your habits, your emotional responses, so many of your automatic behaviors. So when you put a suggestion in there directly, it can really have a lasting impact on how you think, how you feel, how you act, even after the hypnosis session is over.
That's pretty powerful stuff.
It is.
So you're saying, like, with the right suggestion, we could rewire those, like, deep down habits and thought patterns
Exactly.
that have been holding us back for years.
Exactly. And that's why hypnosis has become such a valuable tool, especially in things like therapy and like personal development.
Huh. So it's not about mind control. It's more about accessing the power of our own minds.
Yeah, exactly.
This is starting to sound less like psychology and more like we're like in a secret society of mind ninjas or something. So how do we tap into that power responsibly? So we're holding these seriously powerful tools, but how do we make sure they're being used for good? How do we know someone isn't going to use this stuff for like evil? What does the book say about the ethics of all this?
Yeah, well, the book really emphasizes how important ethical considerations are when it comes to NLP and hypnosis.
Right.
It even like lays out a few scenarios where these techniques are being used in not so great ways.
Yeah.
And it kind of drives home the point that if you have knowledge but you don't use it responsibly, it can have some bad consequences.
That's a good point. Just because these techniques can like rewire someone's brain doesn't mean you should. It's not about getting what you want. It's about using these tools to help people.
Exactly. The book is very clear that there's a huge difference between using this stuff to manipulate people into doing something that they wouldn't otherwise do versus using these tools to help someone, like, I don't know, get over a phobia or break a bad habit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's all about empowering people.
Not exploiting them, yeah.
Exactly.
This whole deep dive has really been eye-opening. We've uncovered this whole hidden world of persuasion. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's been a pretty fascinating look into how people behave, right?
Absolutely. And even though we've talked about a lot today, from the dark triad to NLP and hypnosis. This is really just the beginning.
Totally, just scratching the surface.
It really feels like we've been given this like secret decoder ring for understanding not just how other people are trying to influence us, but how we can kind of hack our own minds too.
I like that. Hack your own mind. And that's the big takeaway here, right? Awareness. You've got to be aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
And don't just take everything at face value, especially if it seems like it's designed to get a reaction out of you.
It's like that old saying, like, forewarned is forearmed.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into the psychology of persuasion. So as you're reflecting on everything we've discussed, what was the most surprising thing for you? What will you do differently now, knowing what you know? Keep those questions in mind as you move through the world, and who knows, you might even discover some aha moments of your own.